Hey traders, this is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day market and option recap. So, as always, start with the major indices and then we'll drill into some of the trades that we saw today in option activity. Some really good trades, by the way, in terms of aggressive option activity. So let me start with the S&P chart. And we had a nice update today. A little bit of a fade at the end of the day. You can kind of see I drew this trend line, which I'm going to draw in so you don't have to squint your eyes. But basically, we're still above the short-term moving averages. And again, if you really want to super analyze things, you could say that we've had a little bit of difficulty catching this higher level here, which again, I think is what's to be expected at this point. I actually had a trend line in here, but I just changed my PC settings. I have new PC today, so a little bit of a late start for me today. But you could see that we kind of stalled out here, and I drew that trend line this morning, and I think you could see this on the one. If we go to the 1 hour, you can kind of see what I'm seeing here. And yeah, here we go. You could see that in the beginning of the days we've had this sell-off. I think what's today? Was it so Monday, Tuesday? Right at the beginning of the day, we've had this sell-off. So we kind of bucked that trend today, but we sat back down. So here was your reversal bar again on the 1 hour bar. Some really good signals here in terms of reversals or trend lines. A lot of people spend time on the 5 minute bar or even shorter time frames or the 10 minute bar. I seem to really be able to get good pictures out of the 1 hour in terms of trend lines, from where we stop. The route again, like a really good reversal bar here on the 1 hour. So that's one of mine. Just every once in a while, I just share a few tidbits of what I do on a daily basis. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it for S&P. The Qs again, with this tax, it definitely seems like there's I've been calling it a reshuffling. Today I was calling it the icky shuffle today in terms of what we're seeing in sectors, right? So it does seem like that the tech continues to kind of be not where things are right now. This is not the tech chart. Why is this not going? Why is this still on S&Ps? Let me just try that again. It doesn't looks like it doesn't want to go to there. There we go. Let's try that. Actually, it does look the same here. So the Qs, just a little bit of weakness today. Again, we were up about 20 basis points, but trailing. And then where the strength was today was in small caps. Most of that, again, just so that you're aware, the biggest weight in the small caps is the banks, so the smaller banks. So that really tends to skew the performance in the small caps. But you could see a fade as well. I think there was a decent sell imbalance for the market on close orders today. Again, all things that I don't think anybody should be surprised at. If you look at all the money that was redeployed into the market the last couple of weeks, I think there was, $21 billion that went into equity ETFs in the week leading up to quadruple witching. So, that money sometimes just comes out a little bit too. So, and I think that's what we're getting. But so that's really not the story of the day. I'm sorry, we're in 3 minutes of the video, and I haven't really gotten to all the stories of the day. Energy, this was something that we talked about, I believe, in yesterday's video. Certainly a chart that I put in the Tribeca Trade Group room. I think we were all over the move in energy. It just kind of took some time, and we saw time after time, there was really good option activity in the energy names. And even in the ETFs themselves. We saw, I believe it was on the 8th of December, a really good aggressive call buyer in. Sorry, this chart's really slow today. I'm not sure what's going on in Thinkorswim, but we saw some really good call buying both in XLE and in OIH. The XLE I know was on the 8th of December. Was really unusual to see XLE calls like that bought. Just keep in mind, remember that in XLE, CVX and Chevron and Exxon are about 28% of this ETF. But it was the same thing with OIH. OIH not as pretty the oil services ETF, not as pretty as of a chart, but it did looks like it did close above the 200-day moving average. This was actually the one that I was playing because before we saw the XLE call buying, we saw a bunch of OIH call buying, as well as call buying in Schlumberger, as well as call buying in Halliburton. Some of these charts really look good. I'm going to zoom out here. I hope this chart doesn't get screwed up. I think that's okay. But if you look at the charts of SLB, this is up to the 200-day moving average. Of course, it did get screwed up. And then really the one that they were going after for a while was Halliburton. So again, some of these trades you just have to have a little bit of patience with because we saw a little bit of a rally after when they purchased Halliburton and a little bit of digestion coming right back into the 200-day moving average. And what a move this has been. I think we talked about yesterday, PXD, a lot of people getting excited about that chart yesterday. And above the 200-day moving average. Big day yesterday and continuation today. I'm long Oxy as well, and this thing has just been. I think it's been one of the best looking energy charts that I've seen. Started to show the strength before a lot of other energy names. So that 74 up here, this VPOC or 7370 is probably where I'm going to be looking to unwind this trade. If it keeps heading up a little bit further. I've been piecing out of it. I sold a little bit more today, took a little bit more profits. I also took some profits in my OIH trade today for a double. Was in that trade at around 30 cents. Was up well over 60 cents. So that was the one move today. Also, the metals and mining continues to be very hot. If we go to this was a group that we saw call buying, just like I was talked about with the XLE ETF, the equally weighted metals and mining ETF. A lot of call buying in this one the last couple of days too. We've mentioned it in this week's videos, and I got long and took off this trade today. So we'll see. I could always get back into it, but it was a very short dated trade. So I'm in that. I was out of that for again, really nice profits in the metals and mining ETF. And this group is really strong. I mean, FCX, I think has just been on an absolute tear. Another name that I started looking at, same thing with Nucor. I mean, we hit all these names. I mean, Nucor has just been an absolute beast since breaking this trend line and moving on up. Another one that I just started looking at today, no position on yet, but just kind of looking. Vale, this is the Brazil name, and you could see moving out. You kind of have to zoom out to see where this thing was, right? This was at one point a $44 stock. It's just at $12 here, so I think it has a lot of retracing that it could possibly do. So I'm looking at this one again. I just didn't want to add more risk on top of today and top of today's nice price action, especially obviously in the morning. Then just a couple other groups. The financials strong. We played Goldman Sachs. We put on a short put spread in GS. Holy cow! What a move today. They actually, which I don't think was the catalyst for today. We were kind of wondering the last couple of days with the move in rates as interest rates moved up and the banks really didn't catch. I think, again, you just had to be a little bit patient. I was thinking about the financials in the last two videos saying, hey, these things are bound for a big green day. And there you go, Goldman. So really, again, a nice trade that we put on 2 days. So if you haven't figured out by now, I had a really nice day trading wise today, and not so much even like new positions, but just positions that we've been putting on and just smartly, watching the tape and noticing what's been going on. Masco has been another huge winner in the trading room. This one I took another target in today. This was one of the few trades that I added this week. Into some strength, I think right in here, and this thing has just been up and away. So again, real nice winner in the room. One more area to go over. Well, and then sorry, I'm already 9 minutes into the video and haven't even talked about today's option activity. So I'll just point out, I think even more of. Sorry, I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 different names. So I'm reading my phone and see something that's interesting. But FTC, this was a name. This was First Data Corporation. We talked about this name about a week ago when there was big January, about $1 million in premium January 2019 calls that traded. Let's see if this system wants to cooperate today. But here was the trade that kind of alerted me to the fact. So this is kind of just textbook what we do in the trading room all day long. We don't take every trade. We just kind of sit and say, huh, that's interesting in FTC. I wonder why they're buying calls out going out to 2019. So I did not take that trade. I thought it was, it's a counter trend trade. It's underneath the 200-day moving average. And once they started today to buy the short dated stuff, again, this trade's all the way out to January 2019, the 20 calls. Again, the 20, you always want to kind of foot this to the chart. The 20 strike is you can't even see it on the chart. But again, they're giving themselves a long time with this one. So what did they do today? They started going after this January's calls, not FTS, sorry, FTC. And I jumped into this trade. As they say on TV, I scrambled into this trade, January 17 calls, and we were able to, I almost hit my second target in this one, but just a really, already had this name kind of in the back of my mind from when we saw calls about a week ago in FTC. So, I didn't really hesitate once we saw the second call buyer, especially names where I think the chart is a little bit funky or is more of a counter trend trade. Once we see that second call buying, that's what really, second or third call buying, that's what really gets me into a trade that I have not been into before. Right, when they're really going after something. Speaking of repeat activity, we saw this trade yesterday, Quanta Services. This is another play on infrastructure. Look at the candle on this one. I think I talked about this one in yesterday's video. So once they come in that second time, I pulled the trigger and went in on this trade today, and also hit a nice profit target in this one. And now I'm sitting with the profits. And again, you go to some of these charts, right? So many people are so quick to take profits, and they miss the majority of these moves. Remember, this game is all about letting your winners run, and then taking off your losers quickly, right? So as soon as you recognize something's not right in a chart, and if you have a winner or a small loser, you get out quickly, and then the ones that are working for you, you let roll. And especially in option trading, it's a little bit harder to do that versus than in a cash position, because you have a lot of different variables going on with options. But as long as you're taking targets and then letting that last piece or the half of the position, you ride that as your winner. That's really the challenge to do it and to be consistent in making money. You have to let some of these names run. There's no doubt about it. So just that's a recap. A few other names that we saw today. I really like those. Those were the two new names that I took. There's a lot of other call buying going up in the energy space. We did see some more Schlumberger. We saw some COG. We saw some things like Goose trade. We saw some Weight Watchers calls go up. That's always a tricky trade to me, especially when they're just going out to front month, January. So I did not take Weight Watchers calls today. Some of this stuff, and again, just like the FTC trade, they bought January today. That doesn't really suit me for a swing trade, so I went out further. I went out to April. No harm in doing that. Dunkin Brands, this one has escaped me. I fully admit. Dunkin Brands, we've seen call buying in a few different of the food stocks. This one, they've come in several times now, and I just didn't want to chase today. I think the move has already been made. I think it's overbought. It's blown out to the upside. So at this point, when it's blown out, I don't really want to. I don't really want to chase. Unfortunately, like I said, there was call buying in a few different names. Wendy's, Papa John's. Those are the two names that I went in, and I did not go into Dunkin', and this has been the best one. Wendy's has been good as well. I'm in just straight cash, straight stock for this one. Actually, it looks like it had a reversal bar after an upgrade yesterday, and actually finished down on the day. So I'm still holding cash. We'll see what it does here. But also a name that kind of got blown out to the top. A few other names that were interesting today. The banks, which I talked about Goldman, but Citigroup. Citigroup has been a name that we've seen some call buying now a couple times. This looks interesting. You could pretty much draw a trend line here. I have this for price. Let me just change this to trend. Right, there we go. So I think what you want to do is maybe put a trend line here that may be a little bit too much of an angle, and say once this breaks over here, but it's getting pretty interesting. So we saw small call buying in this one. We did see some more call buying in BAC as usual. Whenever the banks have momentum, there's always these small BAC call buyers. And then Wells Fargo, it looks like they're still buying. What a move in Wells Fargo. It just continues to go higher, call buying on a 52-week high today. So I think that's it. Just a word of caution. Well, not anything caution. One of the first groups that was outperforming today that was up on my radar was the Chinese internet names, as China was strong last night. I think Baba was a good winner. That was a nice winner for a lot of people in the trading room today. I'm in a little bit of JD, still a second inside day. I got out of my YY position. It just looked like it faded a little bit too much. You know, at the beginning of the day, I was like, all right, this was the move I was looking for. Took some off on the high of the day, and I decided to take the rest of the trade off. I don't like when names start to break out like this and they kind of fail a little bit. So again, that's maybe over analyzing a little bit. You got a nice MACD crossover. Really, your support, if I wanted to kind of hang in this trade a little bit longer, would have been 110.83. But for now, I'm out of it. I could always get back into it. Another name that I'm also in, which hasn't been working that well, is WB, Weibo. Kind of stalled out again right at the same level where it did 2 days ago. So this one is also, I'll have to pay close attention to, as it looks like it's running out of steam right where it needs to continue to go higher. And then just a final look, we talked about the reshuffling. That's my word instead of using rotation. But, kind of interesting in the semi ETF, this also seems to run out of steam after a nice bounce earlier in the week. We had the nice bounce from the lows. We kind of came in a little bit. We tested this 5-period moving average. We bounced back nicely. And then this was the Micron earnings, and Micron continued to fade today, and you can kind of see this move back below the 50-day moving average. So I think hands off, and I think that's a really good guide with a lot of these tech names that sold off hard. Some of them have been fine and they've recouped, but some of them have stalled out like this, right? Like Square is another good example. I keep showing subscribers I keep showing members of the room, like this is a perfect example. You wait for a little bit of confirmation. This thing, I really want to get back into Square, but there's no reason to get back into it now. It's not reclaiming any levels. And every time it try to reclaim, confirmation of kind of coming around, it's stalled. You could see these big long wicks. So again, this name, I keep setting alerts for when I think this is going to be interesting, but not yet. One other name that I started looking at today, which I'll leave you with, DWDP. Dow DuPont. Take a look at this name. No position yet, just on my radar. Looking for this thing to get back above the December value area, and I might try a long here. It's been going sideways now for a while, so would like to take a shot at this if it provides a little bit of confirmation. This is not it. Try to go higher, failed. A little bit of a kind of a floating hammer type doji candle today. Let's see if we can get above value, and that's where I would be interested in getting long. One other group I would say, sorry, I said I was going to leave with that one. Last one, Biotech on the radar, nothing to do yet. Every time it gets to that 50-day moving average, it seems to fail. So this one, give it some time. Wait for the confirmation. I looked at this and I'm like, interesting. Biotech starting to heat up again, or at least having a nice day, but it just can't put a string of good days together. I'm looking for a breakout above 84 before I revisit a long in this space. All right, thanks for watching the video. Have a great night.